Dateline tonight. What appears to be the first hostage video has been released by Hamas, as Hamas says that they are holding more than 200 others in Gaza, all along the border of Gaza. Israeli troops are taking up positions, preparing for what is expected to be a massive ground operation that could happen at any moment. Now, the video that was released by Hamas is of a civilian named Mia Shim, who we've learned was kidnapped by Hamas in those attacks last week. The video is over a minute long. We don't know when it was made or the full circumstances that she's in right now, so we're not going to be showing the whole thing, but we can tell you what she said. Mia said that she was at a party in Sirdat. She says she was hurt in her hand. She was taken to Gaza, where she says she was operated on, received medical care, but no word yet on her brother's condition, who was also kidnapped with her. A spokesperson with the Israeli Defense Force says at this time, IDF representatives are in contact with the family. The IDF operates with all intelligence and operational means for the return of the abductees. Mia's family is expected to speak tomorrow, and all of this is happening as thousands of Israeli troops are standing by at this Gaza's borders, preparing for what's going to be, or possibly going to be, a massive ground operation that could come at any moment. NBC's Ellison Barber joins us now from the Israel-Gaza border. Ellison, this is one of those potentially hundreds of hostages, which could also potentially mean hundreds of videos like the one that we just saw. What do we know about the conditions of the hostages, and what about the plans to rescue them?
Hey, Gadi. Yeah, this video, it is the first video that has been released like this by Hamas, showing someone who has been abducted speaking directly to the camera. As you said, we're not going to show that video, but I can tell you, having watched it, you see in the beginning that she is injured. According to Hamas, when they released this video, they say that she was struck by a bullet in the arm and they have operated on her. She then speaks to the camera saying who she is, and then says how badly she wants to come home. I will tell you, Gadi, right now, we are hearing that boom you probably hear in the background. It is the sound of high-caliber artillery going off. In the last hour and a half since we've been here, we've just heard a constant cycle of this. You'll see a flash first, and then you'll hear the boom based on the sound. We think it's about 2.5, maybe more miles away from us, so we're okay to keep talking to you right now. But this is an escalation in terms of what we have seen from this section of the Israel-Gaza border in the last couple of nights. The last 2 nights we've been here, things have been relatively quiet. It's changed a bit in the last hour and a half. But let's keep talking about those hostages, because it is important and it's such a focus of people in Israel right now. Hamas has said they have somewhere between 200 and 250 people in their custody. That woman in that video, she is believed to be a French-Israeli national. According to the International Red Cross, they said on Thursday during a press conference that they are trying to have talks and negotiate the release of hostages. They say they're in contact with Israel as well as Hamas. They said they have had direct and daily contact with Hamas, but so far there haven't really been any developments beyond that. Israel has said they are not negotiating and talking with Hamas, and they have no plans to do that. What a lot of people are wanting Israel to do is to launch this ground assault, to go in there and try and get those hostages out. The IDF says they have conducted a number of raids along the border with
Ellison, sorry to interrupt you. It looks like we've got Secretary of State Anthony Blinken speaking from Tel Aviv.
States solidarity with Israel and our ironclad commitment to its security. President Biden will again make clear, as he's done unequivocally since Hamas's slaughter of more than 1,400 people, including at least 30 Americans, that Israel has the right and indeed the duty to defend its people from Hamas and other terrorists and to prevent future attacks. The President will hear from Israel what it needs to defend its people as we continue to work with Congress to meet those needs. Second, President Biden will underscore our crystal clear message to any actor, state or non-state, trying to take advantage of this crisis to attack Israel. Don't. To that end, he's deployed 2 aircraft carrier groups and other military assets to the region. Third, the President will continue to coordinate closely with our Israeli partners to secure the release of hostages taken by Hamas, including men, women, small children, Holocaust survivors, and American citizens as an indispensable humanitarian effort. Fourth, President Biden will receive a comprehensive brief on Israel's war aims and strategy. Fifth, the President will hear from Israel how it will conduct its operations in a way that minimizes civilian casualties and enables humanitarian assistance to flow to civilians in Gaza in a way that does not benefit Hamas. To that end, today, and at our request, the United States and Israel have agreed to develop a plan that will enable humanitarian aid from donor nations and multilateral organizations to reach civilians in Gaza, and them alone, including the possibility of creating areas to help keep civilians out of harm's way. It is critical that aid begin flowing into Gaza as soon as possible. We share Israel's concern that Hamas may seize or destroy aid entering Gaza or otherwise preventing it from reaching the people who need it. If Hamas in any way blocks humanitarian assistance from reaching civilians, including by seizing the aid itself, we'll be the first to condemn it, and we will work to prevent it from happening again. We welcome the government of Israel's commitment to work on this plan. The President very much looks forward to discussing it further when he's here on Wednesday. Thanks very much.
And that was U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken right now announcing that President Biden will be traveling to Israel this week. That comes after a 7-hour meeting today with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's go back to Ellison Barber, who is on the Israeli-Gaza border for more. Ellison, I'm not sure if you were able to hear that. Some big news coming out of that statement from Blinken about the possibility of humanitarian aid going into Gaza, possibly through a corridor or some area that's being set up for what I believe he said civilians and civilians only. Making that happen on the ground is a whole different matter. Do you see that happening in the next couple of days here?
You know, Gadi, it's hard to say. There have been so many expectations and different moments in the last couple of days where we thought the sole land crossing out of Gaza that doesn't go into Israeli territory, the Rafah crossing that leads into Egypt, that it would be open, and then it didn't happen. There are a lot of efforts, a lot of groups who want to see some sort of humanitarian corridor, some sort of green zone, so civilians who want to get out can get out and aid can get in. We thought that border was going to open, at least for foreign nationals to leave this morning, and then for aid to get in. That didn't happen. The UN, they have said that part of the issue here is that you need multiple parties to agree to this. And right now, two key parties, Israel and Hamas, they are not on speaking terms. When the UN said that, they said some of the parties are not on speaking terms, to say the least. So that's making this situation difficult. But obviously, there's a great need, a great desire for something to be done in the international community to help the civilians caught in the middle of all of this. The fact that Biden is going to visit here on Wednesday, as Blinken just said, is a very big deal. We had reporting from NBC News earlier this evening that 3 U.S. officials had told NBC News that they were strongly considering this visit and that planning efforts for a visit were already underway, including planning efforts on the ground here in Israel. Remember, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu invited Biden, according to NBC reporting, on Sunday over the weekend to visit at some point in a solidarity visit. It's a very big deal to have a president visit a war zone. There's so much security that goes into any presidential trip. War zones, they are unpredictable. It is difficult to have any sort of concrete, unchangeable plan, right? Because things can change so quickly. But President Biden and his team, they have visited a war zone in the past. In February, Biden spent 24 hours in Kyiv, Ukraine. That was an unannounced visit. This is a little different in that they are now announcing that he will be here earlier. But it comes as we are hearing the U.S. say, according to our Pentagon team, prepare to deploy orders to some 2,000 forces to possibly come to nearby countries to support Israel's in their war here. We also know 2 USS ships, the USS Ford and USS Eisenhower. One of them is already in the Mediterranean Sea in the east and international waters. Another is on its way. All of that, according to the Secretary of Defense, is meant to be an indication to other states that might be looking at this and considering getting involved to stay out. I imagine that's some of the thinking behind the visit for President Biden on Wednesday. The fact that he will be here, though, a very big deal. And surely for Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, who has already extended that invitation to Biden days ago, welcome news that he does plan to visit. Gadi?
A very big deal indeed, especially considering that Blinken was meeting with Netanyahu today. They were interrupted, I believe, to go into a bunker because of air raids. Ellison, I do want to ask, you were saying earlier that you were hearing the sound of artillery. Usually what we've been seeing in Gaza, at least some of the videos that we've been seeing, are airstrikes. And now from where you are we talking artillery fire into Gaza?
So we've heard a little bit of both. Earlier in the evening, we heard what sounded like machine gun fire, but that was only for a brief period of time. When we're talking about high caliber artillery, think of, it's not quite a tank, but it looks kind of like it. Think of howitzers, which you probably remember seeing in our coverage during the Ukraine war. That's the type of thing it likely sounds like. But again, it's based on the timing from when we see the light to when we hear the booms. It's probably 2.5 miles, give or take, away from us, so we can't see exactly what it is. But we have people with us who have a military background, and that's the sound that they say this sounds like. That's something that would be able to lob pretty far in the air and then strike into Gaza versus being, say, directly hand-to-hand shooting a weapon. It's not that sort of thing that we're hearing. It's something like a howitzer that would fly up over into the air into Gaza. But we haven't seen missiles flying from this section of the border, Gadi, since Thursday night. When we were here Thursday, we saw 3 or 4 missiles firing up from the Israeli side into Gaza. We have not seen that tonight. Gadi?
Gives us a small comfort as we think of you and your team. Ellison Barber, thanks so much, and stay safe out there. And while what's happening in Israel with Hamas is on the other side of the globe, police say it has motivated a man to commit a violent hate crime here in the United States. This is 6-year-old Wadia Al-Fayumi, a Palestinian-American boy, and he was stabbed 26 times and killed in his home in a suburb outside of Chicago. On Saturday, investigators arrested his 71-year-old landlord, who they say attacked the boy, and his mother, who was also stabbed more than a dozen times. She's expected to survive. Police say he was targeted because he was Muslim, and his death is being investigated as a hate crime. Here's his uncle from his funeral earlier today.
When he was dead, he was last words to his mom. Mom, I'm fine. You know what? He is fine. He's in a better place.
Heartbreaking. Let's go to NBC's Shaq Brewster for more.
Good evening, Gadi. Well, we saw that suspect, 71-year-old Joseph Shuba, appear in court for the first time earlier today. He was in an orange or red jumpsuit. He said that he understood the charges against him, including the 8 counts that he's facing, 8 felony counts, including first-degree murder, attempted murder, battery, and 2 counts of hate crimes. And in that courtroom, we got a better sense of why prosecutors are so confident that this was an act of hate. They said that it was not just based on interviews that they did with the mother of Wade, who is in the hospital still recovering from her stab wounds, but they said it was also based on conversations they had with the wife of the suspect, who told them that this is someone who's become obsessed with what is happening in the Middle East, that he has become obsessed and listens to conservative talk radio frequently, and that he knew his tenants, he was a landlord, were Palestinian and wanted them to leave. All of those conversations happening before Saturday midday when he knocked on that door, and prosecutors say it's led to this attack, this stabbing attack that led to the death of this 6-year-old boy. Meanwhile, as that's happening, we know this family is laying that 6-year-old to rest. His funeral events, his funeral services took place earlier today. His burial is a little bit later tonight. Listen to what one family member said about the joy and about the spirit of this 6-year-old.
Wadia was such an intelligent boy. He was a sweetheart. He loved his iPad. He loved games. He loved watching like cartoons. He was our world. He really was the light and day in our lives. And honestly, the situation just tore us all apart.
His father saying during a press conference that he wants accountability for his son, but also saying that he wants to see peace come out of his son's death. Meanwhile, the suspect in this case will remain behind bars until trial. Gadi.
And we're following some breaking news in Belgium, where the search continues right now for a gunman behind a possible terror attack today. Belgium's federal prosecutor confirms 2 Swedish nationals were killed. A third person was hurt. The terror level there is right now raised to the highest level, and all this is happening in the busy central city of Brussels, just as a soccer game between Belgium and Sweden was underway. And the moment shot rang out were caught on video and posted on X. And that video shows the shooter entering a building before firing more shots at people. We've stopped the moment he is seen firing at a person in there. NBC's Keir Simmons joins us. Keir, what else do we know about this attack?
Well, Gadi, this all playing out tonight. Just in the past few hours, that video you showed tells us a lot, and frankly, a lot that we know. That shooter pursuing people deliberately, it appears, innocent people, and then firing on them. 2 have been killed, 1 injured, but we don't know where the shooter is. And I think that's really the key focus tonight, is trying to find the person responsible for this. There are reports that he was speaking Arabic. Those haven't been confirmed, those reports from the BBC. And there are, the Belgian prosecutor is talking about this as a terrorist attack. The president of France, Macron, saying that Islamic terrorists have struck Europe again, and saying Europe is shaken.
How do we know whether or not this is related to the deadly conflict that we're seeing in Israel and Hamas? If you look online, that's everything that's what's being said right now. But is it still too early to tell? Yeah.
It's what we fear. It's what is feared now. One Belgian official is saying tonight there is no evidence that there is a connection, and people who watch closely may remember that there has been controversy in Sweden over the burning of the Quran, so there could be a connection there. But I've got to tell you, Gadi, that European officials that I've spoken to in the past days have been deeply, deeply concerned. One saying to me, we do not want to import the crisis from Israel. Europe has really struggled to come up with a unified response. Only last night did all 27 countries put out a unified response that balanced the condemnation of the attacks with urging Israel to show restraint, the kind of balance that you often see from such an amalgamation, if you like, of European countries. So Europe has found it difficult to respond, and it has deeply, deeply worried that the divisions and violence that we've seen in the past in Europe. Remember, Brussels is the place where we saw those terrorist bombs in 2016 from ISIS. Killed more than 30 people, a terror cell that carried out a rampage in France the previous year. Europe very, very worried that there could be reverberations from Israel and from what's happening in Israel that might see attacks again. And maybe tonight that's what we're seeing.
And Keir, from the video that we saw, you can clearly see this isn't happening in a soccer game, and yet online, more confusion. There's chaos at a soccer game that was going on at the same time. What happened at that soccer game?
Right. Well, the 2 people who've been killed were Sweden soccer fans. It was a match between Sweden and Belgium. And so they got to half-time. You know, half-time in soccer is a game of 2 halves. And at that point, the reports are that the Swedish team didn't feel as if they could continue. I doubt anyone in that stadium felt like continuing. There are images of fans in tears. And, of course, the other aspect to this too, Gadi, just as we said at the top there, just to reiterate, this shooter is still, as we understand it, on the loose somewhere. So there is a public protection challenge. People are being told by authorities to be careful, to shelter. And I think until this person is found, they will be on that highest level of alert.
Terrifying all around. Keir Simmons, thanks so much for joining us. And our coverage from the Middle East continues. The U.S. is getting more Americans out of Israel, some by cruise ship. Plus, it's not just Hamas that Israel is fighting. Things are getting extremely dangerous with Hezbollah at the border with Lebanon. It's so bad that Israel is telling some towns to get out. We're taking you there next, so stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. And tonight, as bad as things are right now in Israel and Gaza, there's a growing chance of an even bigger war breaking out across the Mideast. There are ominous warnings being sounded by Iran. And today, Lebanon's militant group Hezbollah saying that they have now targeted Israeli army posts along the border. Now, the Israeli military also has fired into Lebanese territory earlier today. And at some point, smoke was seen rising over the city of Tyre near the Lebanese border. Tensions becoming so unpredictable that the IDF is ordering Israeli civilians to evacuate if they live near the northern border of Lebanon today. The IDF saying that the evacuation would impact some 28 towns there. All this as the United States is trying diplomacy. Let's bring in NBC's Matt Bradley, who is in Tyre, Lebanon right now. Matt, could we see Hezbollah officially enter the war here? What's your read on the situation?
Yeah, it's looking more and more likely, Gadi, and we're seeing that violence that you described, but we're also hearing more and more from the Iranians themselves. You know, they're the patrons of Hezbollah, just like Hamas. They back that group. And I spoke with a member of parliament who's a member of parliament here in Lebanon for the Hezbollah political party, and I asked him that very question. Here's what he told me.
ماذا خط الأحمر للدخول لحزب الله في هذا هو الأمر المخفي الذي لا يعلن عنه وتعرفه قيادة مقاومة المحور.
So he made a reference to this sort of coalition of resistance, and that is a direct reference to Iran. And we've been hearing from the Iranian foreign minister just today. He made his strongest comments yet, where he said all options were open. And he said basically that they might be taking a preemptive strike within the next several hours. Now, that's really ominous. If there is a preemptive strike, it would probably come from Hezbollah. Aside from Hamas, they are the tip of the spear of Iranian power in the Middle East against Israel. Gadi?
Wait, I'm sorry, Brad. Matt, so we are now hours, moments, who knows what the timetable is on Israel going into Gaza, and Iran is talking about a preemptive strike before that?
It's a good question, Gadi, and this is the thing. Are they talking about a preemptive strike against Israel? Why? Because Israel hasn't necessarily directly threatened Iran. What they're really speaking about, I think, if anything, is the fact that there are military assets or naval assets from the U.S. that are now parked off my left shoulder in the eastern Mediterranean. That is what the Iranians keep referring to over and over again. In fact, I would venture a guess that the Iranians have mentioned the United States more than they've mentioned the Israelis over the past several days. So they see the U.S. parking battleship carrier groups off the coast here as the bigger threat because, of course, the U.S. has said that those assets are specifically placed in order to keep the conflict from internationalizing. Again, a not-so-veiled reference to Iran and Hezbollah.
Okay, Matt, so let's just play this out as the best-case scenario. Let's say this is just saber-rattling. Could this backfire?
Backfire, absolutely, because the last time that there was a fight between Hezbollah and Israel, it was Hezbollah that lost dearly, even though they declared it a victory. That was back in 2006 when there was, again, a similar situation. It didn't have the same political payload behind it because they didn't have the sequence of events that was going on in Israel and the Gaza Strip. But there was cross-border firing from here in Lebanon into Israel, and in a matter of hours, it went from almost total quiet to a full-on war that lasted for a month and killed nearly 2,000 people, including around 1,500 Lebanese, most of them civilians. So the backfiring, if you're talking about against Hezbollah and against the people of this country, Lebanon, that is a very real, very present threat, and one that a lot of folks on this side of the line remember very, very well.
Meanwhile, on the Israeli side, the evacuation order by the IDF, this fighting now on the northern front, what are casualties looking like today? How many people have been killed in Israel, in Lebanon, and how do the Lebanese feel about all this?
Well, I have to tell you, Gadi, when we're talking about how dangerous this situation is, we're still talking about a potential danger, because the danger here and the number of casualties is not nearly what we're seeing in Israel and the Gaza Strip, where we're talking about thousands and thousands of people. Here, it's really just handfuls. And while every death, of course, is a tragedy, it's not nearing the same level of violence that we're seeing elsewhere. But still, we heard that there was at least one Israeli civilian on the other side of the border who's been killed, 2 Lebanese civilians on this side of the border, several, probably 4 or 5 Hezbollah fighters on this side of the border, and at least 3 Israeli soldiers on the other side of the border. So that is something that, you know, is percolating. It's a problem. And that's something that could probably escalate in the coming days. Again, when we compare this to 2006, where it went from almost nothing to a full-on war with thousands of dead in just a matter of hours, that's a scenario that a lot of people here remember very, very well, and a lot of people fear could happen again.
All of it happening in a tinderbox of conflict. Matt Bradley, thanks so much for joining us. And right now, the U.S. is still trying to get Americans out of Israel by air or by sea. Today, the government chartered a cruise ship to get Americans to safety, leaving from the port of Haifa in Israel to Cyprus. Now, the State Department has also been arranging some charter flights out of the region on this rolling basis. And from what we know, they're going to be running those until at least this Thursday. And 270 Americans were able to fly out yesterday, touching down in Tampa, Florida last night on a flight organized by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Let's bring in NBC's Josh Letterman, who is in Haifa right now, Israel. Josh, what did you hear from people today? Did everyone get a seat on those charter flights and that ship?
They did, Gadi. In fact, it's interesting. That ship was a major cruise ship, had a capacity, we were told, of about 2,500. Officials said that nearly 2,200 people had signed up for that ship. But when today came, a far fewer number actually showed up and got on that ship. And what appears to be happening is people who are very anxious about the situation right now, whether they can get flights out, whether they can wait however long until the flight that they've booked takes place, are signing up for these options from the government so that they have a backup plan in place, but not necessarily deciding that that's when they want to leave. Because each and every person that we spoke to who did show up to try to get on this boat today to go to Cyprus had a different story about what they've experienced in the last week and a half since that terror attack, as well as why they made the decision now to leave. Here's a little bit of what they told me.
It is hard to hear their stories. You know, some people are pregnant and some people have children, and, you know, it's just really affecting what people are going through.
It reminds me of old news footage you see of World War II refugees. I mean, I can't believe this is happening again.
Are you hearing from friends and family who are worried about your safety?
Absolutely. Yeah, they're scared to death.
But we should point out, Gadi, that as difficult as it is to get out of Israel right now, it's not impossible. The airport is still open. The border with Jordan is open. It is infinitely easier than it is to get out of the blockaded Gaza Strip, where, frankly, nobody is getting out right now.
Speaking of Gaza, do we know about the Palestinian-Americans that are waiting for evacuation there? How many are we talking?
The State Department has estimated there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 to 600 Americans, many of them Palestinian-American dual nationals who are in the Gaza Strip now. Presumably, many or most of them would like to leave given this impending Israeli ground incursion. But right now, there is no open border crossing whatsoever. There was supposed to be this deal today to get people out, foreign nationals like Americans, through the Rafah boarding crossing into Israel. That apparently did not end up happening. And so right now, those Americans who are in the Gaza Strip are still waiting to try to get out.
Josh Letterman, thanks so much. Next, a closer look at the hostage situation as Hamas releases the very first hostage video from inside of Gaza. Stay with us. Hey, welcome back. And just in, President Biden will visit Israel on Wednesday. That news was just announced by Secretary of State Antony Blinken.
He's coming here at a critical moment for Israel, for the region, and for the world. And he's coming here to do the following. First, the president will reaffirm the United States' solidarity with Israel and our ironclad commitment to its security.
And we are getting some more details about that trip. Biden will also go to Jordan that day and visit Jordan's king, the Egyptian president, and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. They'll discuss the humanitarian needs of all civilians in Gaza. And this is Hamas released the first video of one of their hostages. In it, we hear from 21-year-old Israeli Mia Shim. She and her brother have been in custody since last week. NBC's Lester Holt takes a closer look at the hostage situation and how an impending Israeli offensive could impact rescue operations.
Tonight, the first video of a hostage held inside Gaza, released by Hamas. In it, 21-year-old Maya Shem asks to be brought home as soon as possible and says she's being given medical care. It's unclear if she's being forced to make the statement. Meanwhile, a Hamas leader says non-Israeli captives will be released from Gaza if conditions allow. Hamas is holding 199 hostages, according to the Israeli military. Gershon Baskin negotiated with Hamas to secure the high-profile release of Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit in 2011. He says he's been in contact with Hamas every day since the attack.
What's the best approach to even open a dialogue with Hamas?
The best approach is understanding that it can't be directly done by Israel. To start a dialogue with Hamas, we have to understand who can do it. And the ones who can do it are the countries that have influence over Hamas, which are Qatar, Turkey, and Egypt, and Iran.
Baskin says there's a small window of opportunity to make a deal to release hostages.
It's a matter of days, probably a week, before the Israeli ground forces go into Gaza. That's when the window for negotiation closes.
But that means that hostages are sacrificed.
It means that hostages are going to be tried to be freed, and they might be sacrificed. My sense of the pulse of the Israeli public right now, the government and the military, is that the primary objective today is to remove Hamas from its ability to govern. And that means that hostages may be sacrificed. This hurts me so much to say that the hostages might be considered additional casualties of the war for Israel's survival.
It comes amid a flurry of diplomatic activity. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Prime Minister Netanyahu and his war cabinet for hours today. A meeting interrupted by air raid sirens.
You know our deep commitment to Israel's right, indeed its obligation, to defend itself and to defend its people.
A critical part of those talks, aid for Gaza, where the humanitarian crisis is worsening by the minute. Hospitals are in complete chaos. There is no power. With morgues full, ice cream trucks are now being used to store bodies, while trucks carrying supplies have not been allowed to enter Gaza. Just across the border sits the Israeli town of Sderot, now being evacuated ahead of a possible ground invasion.
Here in Sderot, you can hear the constant whine of Israeli drones, presumably looking for targets. In the town itself, more than half the population has already evacuated. For those who remain, time is running out. The last buses evacuating people have come and gone, and the sounds of war are growing closer.
Moments later, we heard just how close.
Well, we heard the sound of incoming shells. We moved into one of these public shelters with some other journalists here.
Then, as we started to leave,
another explosion. Outside we thought it was the all clear, but we heard another bang very close by.
No one was hurt, and we soon left. But staying behind is Yaritzi Mantov, who's helping coordinate evacuations.
Are you going to leave?
No. It's scary, it's not simple, but we love Sderot. Our heart is here, we can't leave when we know they need us here.
This city official also vowing to stay.
How dangerous is it to remain in Sderot?
He says it's very dangerous because terrorists are still walking around the area near Gaza. The Israeli military says this newly released video was from a body camera worn by a Hamas militant during October 7th's brutal attack. The head of Israel's security services now taking responsibility for failing to prevent it, writing in a letter, despite a series of actions, we were unable to generate a sufficient warning that would allow the attack to be thwarted, adding, as the person at the head of the organization, the responsibility for this is mine. Tonight, so many families are now burying their loved ones, with more than 4,000 people dead 10 days into this war.
It has been a week since Hamas turned an Israeli music festival into a massacre, and some victims are just now being buried by their families. 23-year-old Shira Elon is one of them. She was supposed to be starting psychology in a program this week, and instead she was laid to rest over the weekend. She and her best friend were killed trying to escape that music festival, and it took 5 days for a DNA match to identify her remains. With us now is Shira's sister, Adar. Adar, thank you so much for joining us. We're so sorry about this difficult time you and your family are going through. How are you guys doing?
Right now we're in the middle of the Shiva. So we're surrounded by family and friends all the time. But yeah, it's very difficult to try to imagine what will happen after the Shiva will end, and just realize that she's not coming back to us.
Now, what was your sister Shira like?
She was the youngest, but she was very, very mature. She was like born like an adult. She was very wise and like quiet, but beneath it, like very stand for herself and very kind. And I keep getting messages from all of her friends about how free spirit she was, how innocent and gentle. And that it's very shocking, like nobody understands what kind of monster can just look at her and then try to hurt her and shoot her, because she had like the heart of gold, and she was very delicate and very innocent.
And tell me, what was she supposed to be doing this week? I know she was studying psychology or about to start a psychology program. What was her dream in life?
She was supposed to start a psychology degree in the university, and yeah, she wanted to be a therapist. She wanted to help people. As I say, she was very, very wise, very mature, always like listening to everybody's problem, trying to fix them. And I think her job in life was just to make everybody feel okay, feel good.
Now, I can't imagine what you guys are going through right now, grieving, and also with Israel in a state of war and uncertainty. You're in Israel still. What's the situation where you are?
The situation is we're in the middle of Shiva. Like, we have hundreds of people in here, family and friends, every day coming to say goodbye to her. But almost every hour we have sirens, so everybody has to run to the shelter, which is not good, which is not big enough for everybody. So everybody's just running to the staircase.
Wait, her memorial is being interrupted by air sirens again and again and again?
Yeah. It's very, very stressful every time. Like, even though I'm supposed to be used to it by now, because I was growing up hearing sirens and we have it every few months, every time that I hear it, my heart just stops. And usually we have like 30 seconds to run for the shelter or for a safe place. And in here, like, it's hard enough for us to sit in our home, hearing stories about her, trying to say goodbye, but every few hours you have the sirens and everybody has to run for the shelter again. Some of the people are like very old, so it's hard and also very disrespectful for her. But what's more disrespectful from her body sitting in the woods for 6 days? Like, what else can we expect from that?
You guys are living two impossible realities right now. Our deepest condolences go out to you guys, and you guys are in our hearts and prayers. Adar, thank you so much for honoring the memory of your sister with us.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, and here's a quick check of some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. The judge in Donald Trump's federal election interference case placed the former president under a partial gag order today, which keeps him from making public comments about witnesses, prosecutors, or court staff involved with the federal case. The order does not, however, keep him from going after President Biden or the Justice Department. And today, the Biden administration reached a court settlement that would prevent separating migrant families at the border like the Trump administration did. And if approved by a judge, it would remain in effect for 8 years. Now, the settlement would also provide temporary benefits to those families, including housing assistance and work permits. And NBC News will host the next Republican primary debate on November 8th in Miami. The Republican National Committee says it'll announce which candidates qualify in the next couple of weeks. Donald Trump, who's the GOP frontrunner, has skipped the first two debates and has called for any future debates to be canceled. And in Colorado, a train derailed in a bridge collapse, trapping a truck driver underneath piles of coal and mangled train cars. That truck driver died. He was 60 years old. And Colorado State Police say that they are investigating, but no word yet on what caused that train to derail. And Taylor Swift's Eras Tour concert movie pulled in nearly $100 million at the box office during its opening weekend, making it the highest grossing domestic release of a concert film ever. If you missed it this weekend, the film is expected to remain in theaters through at least the first week of November. Turning back to what's going on in the Middle East right now, the intelligence failure that led to last week's attack shocked the entire world. And now the head of Israel's internal intelligence service is saying the responsibility for this is on him, adding that, quote, there will be a time for investigations. Now we are fighting. But that doesn't answer the key question here. How was Israel, considered one of the most technologically sophisticated countries, completely blindsided? Well, according to some experts, it was actually the Israelis' advanced technology that might have left them vulnerable to Hamas in the first place. NBC's Jake Ward has more.
Well, Gadi, several intelligence and technology experts I've been speaking to expressed absolute shock that Israel was taken as surprise by it was. It really sets the world standard when it comes to the sophistication of its surveillance and security apparatus. And that, of course, makes today's announcement from Ronen Bar, the head of Shin Bet, in a letter to his employees, all the more notable, taking personal responsibility, saying we failed to anticipate and warn adequately about this attack, and the fault rests with me. He says time for investigation will come, but for now we must fight. When I've been speaking to these experts about what perhaps may have been the failure here, they point to many, many possibilities, and it'll be a while before we know. But for instance, the possibility that the reliance on cell phone towers to enable communication between security apparatus at the billion-dollar Gaza border, one established in 2021, and the rest of the country may have given Hamas an opportunity to attack it with drones. Here's how one former CIA analyst described it.
Hamas wound up using a number of drones essentially to take out a lot of these critical cell towers and then utilize some other relatively low-tech technology in order to be able to, successfully blind essentially Israeli defenses. The Israelis have been utilizing kind of traditional buried landline type stuff for their monitoring systems and their communication systems. I think it's doubtful they would have been caught quite so off guard.
Another broader possibility that was described to me over and over again, Gadi, was the possibility that this country, really the world capital of commercial spyware, where places like the Pegasus software made by the NSO group came from, that this place may have created a reliance on what we call signals intelligence, the ability to monitor cell phones and the metadata that come out of them, as opposed to human intelligence, the opportunity to actually put people inside an organization like Hamas. It may be that reliance on signals intelligence caused a lack of reliance on human intelligence. Again, this is experts trying to figure out what's happening. And the reason they care so much about it is because Israel does set the standard when it comes to security. The reason we go through the kind of security procedures we do at airports these days is because Israel more or less invented them. And so right now, you have people all across the world wondering what happened here in Israel and undoubtedly preparing to change their security apparatus in any same way that Israel goes on to do so once they figure out what went wrong here. Gadi?
Fascinating. Jake Ward, thank you so much. And before we go, drones, defense systems, and a lot of rocket attacks. As we watch the Israeli-Hamas war unfold, we're going to take a step back and look at how weaponry advanced to the point that it is at right now through the decades. The history of warfare is coming up next. And now for a big picture and the future of warfare. Right now, we're in the Middle East, and we are witnessing the early stages of a transformed landscape of warfare, especially when it comes to some of the weaponry like those Hamas-launched drones used against Israel in recent days. But as history has shown, warfare is not just a contest of military might, but of strategy, of asymmetric tactics and weapons that can unleash staggering destruction. So tonight we are kicking off a week-long series looking at the potential form and nature of future conflicts. And to get a good grasp of what warfare might look like in the future, we really have to take a step back and understand how it's evolved over time. And for the past 70 years, there's been one country that's either redefined or reevaluated how almost all wars are fought and developed the technology that we see play out in nearly every conflict around the globe: the United States. The dawn of the nuclear age began with the flash of a man-made sun rising over the New Mexico desert. Trinity Test was created by America's top military and scientific experts of the time, led by Robert Oppenheimer.
If it was needed to put an end to the war and had a chance of so doing, we thought that was the right thing to do.
At that time, the war doctrine became the first with the bomb held the ultimate threat: total annihilation.
Japan, and first pictures of the burned-out shells of its greatest cities.
Days later, a Japanese surrender after the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
The bombs that ended the war sparked a nuclear arms race for hydrogen bombs,
equal to 10 million tons of TNT.
The dread secret and the fearful engines of atomic might are not ours alone. The secret is also known by the Soviet Union.
The Chinese exploded on target a nuclear weapon carried by a guided missile. With that explosion, China narrowed the nuclear gap between itself and the Soviet Union and the United States.
And nuclear-powered aircraft carriers and submarines followed.
In a nuclear war, the decisive battlefield could be not on land or in the air, but here, underwater.
And in the long shadow of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the nuclear buildup that followed, the world's superpowers quickly realized that a cornerstone of this new nuclear strategy was the threat of mutual assured destruction, and the Cold War began.
An iron curtain has descended across the continent. Every cost it must pay, in Korea, Indochina, in any other vital area, has its adverse effect on us.
With the U.S. pouring trillions into air superiority. From the introduction of the first U-2 spy planes in the 1950s to the fastest and highest flying plane in the world, the SR-71 Blackbird. Then came planes designed to be invisible to enemy radar, sometimes $500 million each. But over the last century, U.S. soldiers have seen combat in all its forms. There are covert raids.
The Apache is armed with Hellfire missiles. They can seriously reduce the Blue Book value of a tank.
Decisive operations like the shock and awe of Desert Storm, where the more advanced weaponry reigns supreme.
As I report to you, air attacks are underway against military targets in Iraq. And I assure you, this will not be a campaign of half measures, and we will accept no outcome.
And then there are the large-scale occupations, mired in poor planning and blindness to the asymmetry of an insurgency, like in Vietnam and Afghanistan, that resulted in painful failures and the staggering loss of life. Still, in the modern era, the United States has been the world's undisputed military superpower, but with drones now presenting a faster and cheaper way to kill at scale. What does the future of global warfare actually look like?
And all of that reminds you of that quote from Winston Churchill: "Those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it." That does it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz. More coverage of the Israeli-Hamas war continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.